This episode is brought to you by Indie Film Hustle TV, the world's first streaming service dedicated to filmmakers, screenwriters, and content creators. Learn more at indiefilmhustle.tv.
Welcome to the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, episode 501. I am Alex Ferrari with a new voice. I've had a transplant. That is a lie. I am your guest host, RB, Rich Botto, CEO of Stage 32, and creative, to be the guest host for a retrospective on Indie Film Hustle. I'm going to be interviewing your favorite indie filmmaking guru, the god of indie film podcasting, the master of hustle himself. He's wearing a hustle hat, as you can see in front of you. It is the Alex Ferrari, which, by the way, I have to say, most people, if they would do a retrospective and honor themselves, they would do it on like the even episode, like 500. We're doing 501 because that's all you need to know about today's guest, Alex Ferrari.
I like to be a maverick, sir. Normally it would be an episode 500, but I said no. Let's do episode 501.
And here we are. It's not quite these go to 11. It's not quite Spinal Tap, like you turned it up one louder. Right. You just decided, what the hell? You know, we did a big celebration for 500. Everybody's going to be riding a high. Let's bring them all the way the fuck down on 501 by honoring me.
That's not honoring me. It's okay. Let's just clarify that. This is not about honoring me. It's about doing a retrospective on the show and what we've been able to do with the show and that kind of stuff. And I thought there would be nobody better to do this guest hosting job, sir, than you, because you were very closely there at the beginning of Indie Film Hustle. If I'm not mistaken, our episode was, the first time we spoke was episode 29, I think, if that's the number. Mm-hmm. And that was probably like 4 months in to Indie Film Hustle. So, you know, you came down from Mount Hollywood and graced my show with your presence. And yes, obviously after episode 29, it exploded. And obviously that's all you're doing, sir.
Yes, I showed up. I came down from Mount Hollywood with my my flowing robes and my staff, and graced you with my presence. And now I think, how many shows have I done with you now? 11?
Oh no, I don't know. It's something between all the interviews and the stuff that we've recorded. I don't know, probably 11, 12, 13, something around the world.
Very proud to be the all-time record holder guest of the Indie Film Hustle podcast. So yes, to be sitting here before you today with your smiling face and that beautifully decorated room that you're in.
Oh, stop it.
I just can't tell you the honor. No, seriously. I'm very, very excited to be here. And if you're wondering why I'm doing this, it's first and foremost because I love Alex. He's a dear friend of mine, like a brother. Yeah. Second of all, we have an unbelievable relationship. He asked me to do this. I was very, very honored. If you don't know who I am, really, really quickly, I run Stage 32, which is a social network of people in the film industry, education platform, 800,000 people worldwide. Get on stage32.com. It's free. Think Facebook, LinkedIn for the industry. But also I'm a writer and I'm a director. A writer, producer, and started actually as an actor. But the only thing I've really acted in recently was a small little bit in one of Alex's films. So that'll tell you even a little bit more about how much I love Alex.
And we've had episodes about On the Corner of Ego and Desire and your amazing performance in that. And we could talk a little bit about that later, but it's, go ahead.
So let's talk. So obviously, if you're new to the show, we've already said Alex this is 501 freaking episodes, 501. All right. And let me tell you, it doesn't go like 10 minutes. The man can talk. And when he has me on, forget it. I think our episode's like 4 hours. So it's like, it gets a little crazy, but he's done 500 of these shows. He's written a couple of books, advocate for everybody in the industry, clearly has helped so many people. So today what we're going to do is we're turning the mics around, so to speak, or as Alex said earlier, flipping the script. and I'm going to do the interviewing and talk to Alex about how this all came to be. And I think, I actually would love, because when we first met, I actually believe you came over the Hollywood Hill. I think you came down to Manhattan Beach. We were on the Raleigh Studios a lot. We used to have an office there, and you came to visit us. I'm almost positive. And you brought with you, which I thought was really, really cool, a couple of bottles of vinegar.
Yes.
Right? And you said to me, you were like, this is what I was doing for a little while. And now I'm back in the film business and I'm getting going. I was like, wow, vinegar to film. This is pretty amazing. So tell me, or tell the audience, what brought you back, what you were doing, what the vinegar business was, and how that all led to you saying, okay, I'm putting a flag in the ground. That flag is Indie Film Hustle.
So in 2015, not 2015, 2012. In 2012, my wife and I decided to open up a olive oil and balsamic vinegar tasting shop in Ventura Boulevard. And on Ventura Boulevard in Studio City. And within, 3 months of the idea, we were already in. Like, that's how crazy. And by the way, I had no retail experience. Neither of us did. I just did.
Why olive oil and vinegar? Like, why that specifically?
So the story is my wife and I went on our baby moon when my twins were still unborn to Napa. And since I don't drink wine, even though I've tried a million times, and I know it's your life's journey to get me to drink, I've tried. Amongst other things. We went and we discovered olive oil and vinegar there, and it was just a very romantic. And it was Napa and Sonoma, and we did olive oil tastings and 25-year age balsamic, and we're like, oh my God. So we came back, and my daughters were born, and I'm just sitting there, and I was really burnt out at the time of the film industry. I was doing a lot of post on very kind of like low budget, video, straight to video kind of films. And, I was chasing money from horrible distributors who weren't going to pay me and all this kind of stuff. And I just got burnt out. It was just like a year prior to that. I was just getting burned out of this post, just kind of like constant work. And I wasn't happy. I just wasn't happy doing that kind of work. And I direct every once in a while, but, it was few and far between. It was mostly post that was keeping me alive. So I had the bright idea of saying, hey, I'm going to open up an olive oil and vinegar shop. And my wife, who normally she brings you back to earth. Like I'm always in the cloud. She is down to earth. She said, it must have been the hormones kicking. Hey, let's do it. And that's all I needed. And the gate opened and I just went crazy. So we opened up this store. It was the largest olive oil and vinegar tasting shop in LA. And that's not something to be proud of because the rent was obscene because we were on Ventura, because we were stupid. We had no idea. And it was the 3 of the toughest years of my entire life. It was devastating. It was ball-busting work. It was just manual labor everyone's like, what are you talking about, manual labor? In order to keep the shop open, we had to go and open up we did farmers markets. So I did, at the peak of our business, we were doing 20 to 25 farmers markets a week. And so I had a lot of employees running, and I was the best sales guy. So I was doing, 5 or 6 farmers markets a week myself.
Wow.
And so it was basically Tuesday through Sunday. I only had Mondays off because there were no farmers markets open on Mondays. And I would work all the big markets from Calabasas to Pacific Palisades to Beverly Glen to Hollywood. I worked all the big markets. And I have tons of stories about celebrities that bought my olive oil, and I hung out and talked to celebrities and shit. It's hilarious stories. But it was just like waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, loading up my small car with, 400 pounds of olive oils in vinegar and stuff. It's not light. So physically, I've been literally breaking my back. I'd get injuries. My hands would be fully calloused up. I went to the doctor one day. I'm like, what's going on with my hands? He's like, dude, you've got workman's hands now. I'm like, holy cow. Like I've been a post guy all my life, so I didn't know this kind of labor before. So I did that for 3 years, and we worked all the big events. I mean, 60,000 people, Abikini, that big a festival, we did everything. So we did all this, but it was just so ball-busting work. The amount of work that we were putting out didn't make sense for the amount of money that we were getting in. And then I never left the business 100%. I always did a job here or there, but I wasn't focused. My energy wasn't on it, but jobs would come in and I would do a job here and there. But you know as well as I do, you can't leave this business. You just can't. It's always going to be in you in one way, shape, or form. And then about a year before Indie Film Hustle, I picked up a book that had been in my list on Amazon forever called The 4-Hour Workweek with Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
The very influential book. And I picked it up, and it was the first time I realized, again, it's not the first time, but it's the first time I realized again that I can make money online. And because I had a online business in the late 90s. I had websites and I was selling ads and I did a whole bunch of stuff back in the 90s. I just didn't stick with it. It was a little bit different back then. But then afterwards, I read this book and I was like, you know what? I think I might be able to do something with this. And I was figuring out what niche should I go after and how can I be of service to people. And then my wife's like, why are you being an idiot? Just do film. I'm like, I don't want to do film again. And then after a while, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can actually. I started looking at what was out there. I was like, there's not a lot of. Everything I'm seeing doesn't have any real street credibility, in my opinion. Like a lot of these podcasts and a lot of these websites that were out there, they were all talking from theory, but I got the shrapnel. I'm like, there's no one telling it how it is. So let me throw my hat in the ring, and that's when I launched Indie Film Hustles. The blog came out first. 3 weeks later, the podcast came out, which was always part of the process, and then YouTube and everything else came after that. But that's how it all came about, and then I just went at it with an insane amount of hustle, like an obscene amount. Like I said, everyone's doing 1 episode a week. I'm going to do 2. I am still doing 2. I don't need to do 2 anymore. I still don't need to do 2 of this one show, not the other 6 that I have.
Right. Everything else you got going on.
Right.
Well, I'm just going to attest to the fact that the olive oil and the vinegar were fucking delicious.
Thank you, sir.
Went through it rather quickly. I am an olive oil, obviously being Italian, olive oil and balsamic connoisseur, so to speak. So you did a fantastic job, but retail's not easy. I find it fascinating that anyone could leave film and to go to do something else and say it was harder work.
It was physically harder. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like I left. That's how brutal this was for me, that I was like, you know what? I need to go back and do. I need to go back to the film industry. It's so much easier.
I was like, I left a verbally abusive relationship to go into a physically abusive relationship. I'm going to go back to the verbally abusive relationship.
I think pretty much.
Unbelievable. So you get started. When we met, you were just kicking everything off. We actually hit it off immediately. I think we were sitting in my office and I think we did like a 3-hour Oscar thing.
So we did, originally we did ours, because I know you're up there in age, so I'll remind you. So I originally recorded you on Skype, and it took us like, I don't know, we were going back and forth, and then your connection went bad, and then we had to, like, I'll just call you back at home, and then we finished the interview at your house. It was a weird thing, but we finished that interview up, and that was like an hour and a half back then when we first met. Then after that, I think maybe, I don't know how long later, we did the Oscar thing at the office where I went down to Manhattan Beach. And it's Manhattan Beach or? Well, yeah, it was Manhattan Beach. So we went down to Manhattan Beach, went to the studio, and then we sat there for 3.5 hours, in the 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours, talking about all the Oscar stuff that day. And we live streamed it, and then I put it on my podcast. And I think that was the second time we did it. And then the rest is, as they say, is history.
Been rolling ever since. So, okay, you put like I said, you put the flag in the ground. You're starting the podcast. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, you got to go out and get guests and everything like that. Where what were the challenges early on? I mean, because credibility matters in this business. Maybe a little bit less now than it did when you started, but it certainly matters to an extent. And anybody with anybody that knows how to operate, as my mother would call it, the Google machine, can figure out pretty quickly whether somebody is real or not. So, how did you get, with no audience at the beginning or very little audience? How did you start to land those guests that made a difference and moved the needle with your audience?
I just started reaching out to authors and filmmakers and screenwriters, and it was 2015, so podcasts were even still a little bit more new, so they weren't being hit up constantly by this stuff. And when they went to my website, the website looked professional. So the website looked professional. It looked like I knew what I was doing. I've been faking it till I made it all my life. So I was able to present a very polished look. And then I remember when I landed Dove Simmons. Dove Simmons back in the day. The 2-day.
Still around, baby.
Oh no, he's still kicking. Dove Simmons, I was like blown away that I got Dove. He was like episode 8. And I was like, oh my God, I got Dove Simmons. Was it the 2-day film school? Yeah, it's 2-day film school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I took that course. It helped me make my first short film and and all this stuff. So I was like super excited. I got Dove and then just started landing other guests little by little, and just one grows. When you get one, you start landing the other, and you start landing the other, and it's sooner or later it just starts. After 30 or something like that, you just do it. And then I got you to come on. I don't know how I even reached out. I found out about you. I think I heard you on somebody else's podcast, and I was like, well, if he did that guy's podcast, he'll do mine. I don't remember who it was, but so I just emailed you, and you're like, sure, I'll come on. So it was a different time. Now everybody has a podcast. Now it's just like, oh God,
right.
Why am I wasting my time? But back then, you could reach out to certain directors and certain screenwriters and certain producers, and it was still a novel idea. I mean, don't get me wrong, film podcasts have been around, but they're not as popular in 2015 as they are now. Now it's
right.
Now it's a completely different world. 6 years later, it's a completely different world. Yeah. But that's how I started grabbing guests and I think the biggest thing is, and this is what they've told me, you've told me this in the past too, is when I talk to my guests, I talk to them like they're colleagues. I don't talk to them like I'm a journalist, because I'm not a journalist. Right. So I talk to them at a level that is, I might be talking to a huge Oscar-winning director, but at the end of the day, filmmaking is filmmaking. We still cross over the same dead bodies. Your bodies might be a lot bigger than mine, and you might be dealing with things that I definitely don't understand as an independent. But there's a camera. There's a set is a set.
That's right.
Drama on a set is drama on a set. Getting money for a film is all that stuff is the same. And directing is directing. If you're directing a $20 million star, or you're directing a newbie that just came into the business, it's still the same issues you have to deal with no matter what you do. Like if you paint, there's no matter if you're Picasso or someone who just, picked up a glass of wine and just started painting, paint still has to hit the canvas. How you do it, the struggles, there's still that same kind of struggle. So that's the connection I'm able to do with my guests that I really didn't realize I had until years later, honestly. I was just talking like you and I talk. But it was something that I guess was a little bit more special than the way other podcasts might approach their guest.
Yeah. Well, I would say, as somebody that's done some of those painting and wine nights, the paint doesn't always hit the canvas. I'm just saying. Sometimes you drink the paint. Sometimes you drink the paint. Well, I don't think I've ever gotten that. I don't think I've got that. I might have gotten some paint in the wine, but I mean, but that's another story for another day. So I want to touch on something you said during that last answer, which is you said, fake it till you make it. And I think it'd be interesting for the audience to hear this, because I do believe that there are a lot of people in the filmmaking world, and I see this advice, on Twitter and some places, and it drives me a little bit nuts, and I'll get to why, but I want to get to why I think that that's not true about you, personally, from my perspective, through my lens. But the whole thing of, faking it till you make it, I think it's easier than ever to expose people, and I think it's easier, with if you have any sort of online footprint, like I said, it's pretty easy to figure out who is doing what they're saying they're doing and who, has accomplished whatever. I think if you're standing in front of your own name and you're standing in front of your own credits and you're standing in front of your own content, I think it's pretty easy to figure out. I don't believe that you fake it till you make it. First of all, I don't love that. Like I said, I don't love it because I think, you want to, the way you get around it, in my opinion, is knowledge and action, right? And that's why I don't think that you faked it till you made it, because you came into this and you immediately went about learning everything you needed to learn and then applying it, taking action and applying it. So, you built the website, you learned how to do SEO, you may have had the experience, right? But you learned further how to do it in this day and age, and you probably still are in the month to month, because it changes all the time. You learned how to record a podcast, you learned what mattered, where it needs to go, how to do it, all these different things. So to me, that's not faking until you make it. To me, that's just making it happen. To me, that's, saying I'm going to take action on the thing that I want to do. And to be able to take action on the thing I want to do, I need to have a knowledge base and I need to understand how things operate. And then, like you said, the biggest asset that you had that you brought to the party is you had a knowledge base of the industry, so that when you did speak to guests, they knew that you weren't faking it till you can make it. They knew that you knew what the fuck you were talking about. And that matters. You know what I mean? Because that's where integrity comes from. Right. So I don't know. I disagree with you. I don't think that you faked anything.
Well, I thank you so much for that. When I mean fake it till you make it, not in the sense of what I was doing as far as the content I was doing or the podcast or the show, but presenting an image that is maybe larger than what it is.
But that's branding, that's marketing, and
right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's confidence too. Look, everybody pushes themselves, everybody pushes their brand, even online. There's two different types of people online, really, on social media, that are sort of the extroverted, right? There are those who have created a complete fake tapestry of what their lives are on Instagram, who go to some exotic place, change clothes 550 times, and then post a picture a day for the next, looking like they're here, looking like they're there, or whatever, right? And then there are those that are actually living that kind of life, and they're just showing you the best parts of it, right? They're not showing you when they wake up in the morning, but they're showing you that they're standing in front of the Louvre, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's that kind of thing. And so to me, those people are just showing you the real, and they're going to show you the heightened aspects of it. I think that's true of any marketing or any business. You're going to put the best foot forward. You're going to show the glossy website. You're going to show your best guests. You're going to show that you have, and if you have to play up that knowledge a little bit, I don't think that's faking it. I think it's just basically saying, I don't think that
agree.
Is.
I would agree with you.
I think all branched out. Yeah.
No, I would agree with you then. I guess the faking till you make it, I guess, is not, I think just my definition is a little different than yours, but I agree with what you're saying if you're telling people that you know about the film industry and you don't, and you just graduated from college and you're just like, yeah, I'm an industry vet, and you've got a bunch of fake credits on IMDb, the second that you or me speaks to them, that we'll go, oh God, we can smell them out in a heartbeat.
A mile away.
Especially, and then let alone professional screenwriters, professional directors who've been around, who've got tons of shrapnel. They smell it. They smell it pretty quickly. And I think that's the thing that sets the show apart. All the shows that I do apart, that I connect with my guests at that level, which is not something they're used to. Most guests don't connect at that level. Most guests, when they do a show, it's just like very, kind of, not fake, but like one-dimensional, very surface. It's very on the surface, where I dig deep in, and I ask questions that I just truly want to know as a filmmaker. Like when you're talking to a big director, I'm like, dude, what was it like getting that first job? Yeah, I know you won the Oscar. We'll talk about your Oscar in a minute, man. But like that first job, what was that like?
Well, and that's interesting too, because that means that you, and this, I think you do this very well. That means you also know your audience, right? Because it's true. It's anybody can watch I hate to put it this way, but anybody can watch a masterclass and listen to 3 hours of masturbatory conversation, a half hour of you could do it in 30 minutes of worksheets. Okay, anybody could do that, but not everybody is going to get down to the root of how'd you do it, why'd you do it, what were the sacrifices, what were the things. So really, that brings me to the audience. How did you know early on, without any sort of audience response yet, because the podcast was just starting, what your audience would want to hear? Did you kind of make it for yourself? Did you kind of say, like, this is the information I'd want to hear?
It's still the way I do the show. All the questions I ask are questions that I want to know. So I know that my audience wants to know this because I'm a filmmaker. So I just put myself in the shoes of the people listening. And I've gone through all the troubles that they've gone through. I've gone through other troubles that they will never go through, like, almost making a $20 million movie for the mob. And many other.
It's still going to happen.
So I've gone through every pain point that my audience has gone through because I've been living it. And to a lesser extent in the screenwriting space. I'm no screenwriting guru by any stretch, but for whatever reason, my screenwriting podcast is one of the most popular ones out there. So it's because I'm asking questions.
Because the screenwriters are lazy as fuck and they procrastinate all day long.
And they want to listen. And they want to listen to this podcast.
They want to hear other people bitch about the fact that nothing's working, and meanwhile, more shit's getting sold today than ever before.
How do you crack that character arc? So, but that's the approach I do to all my shows. Is it's me. I want to know these questions. I truly when I sit down with, some of the guests I've sat down with, I truly wanted to just go like, how'd you do it? How'd you get to that point? What did it feel like when you got called by Sundance? What did you feel like when you got up there and accepted the Oscar? Like, these are questions that I truly just want to know from a human being to a human being, and a filmmaker to filmmaker, a filmmaker to screenwriter, just going, how did that work? When you wrote that first script and you sold it, what was that like? And then how did the town treat you? And when you dropped off because you're not the hot shit anymore, how did you recover? How did you break out of that box? These are all questions I truly just want to know. So asking questions is really easy for me because these are all just questions I want to know about. And that's what I think the audience responds to. But there was no market research. The only market research I did was in 2005. When I released that first movie, my first short film, Broken, and I said, hey, I'm going to create a DVD with 3.5 hours of how I made it because I think there's no other information out there about this and I think it'll sell. And I was right. It is pre-YouTube, pre-everything. So I'm a filmmaker. I can't find any information about how to make an independent film with Shake and Final Cut Pro and a DVX 100A mini DV 24p camera. I can't find it anywhere. So guess what? I'm pretty sure that some other filmmakers out there want to know about it. So that's what I did. And boom. And if anyone goes back to the archives of Indie Film Hustle, most of my initial content was based off of that DVD. I would be releasing videos of that because that's all I had. I was like, well, I got 3.5 hours of something that's 10 years old. Let's get that ball rolling. But there's still good information. I still get people are still watching that stuff and people are still buying that package, even to this day, even though some stuff is outdated, but a lot of stuff is still very, very solid. So that's how I did my market research. Honestly, I was just like, well, what do I want?
Cool. Too cool, man. Too cool. So let's catch, just in case anybody's just jumping in at this exact moment in the podcast and hasn't listened to anything else, we'll catch you up. So Alex is through breastfeeding. He's started to walk. He's gone through his awkward teenage years. He's done vinegars and olive oils. And then he's launched this podcast. And so tell me when you knew. Tell me, I think you said I was episode 29. So I'm pretty sure that it was probably immediately after that. But when did you know, you had something? When did you know you had sort of the tiger by the tail, that the audience was there and the audience was coming with you?
Oh, I knew that. God, episode 8 or 9, honestly, 10, because I saw the numbers. Look, I marketed the show, and I still market obscenely. Like the brand, and it's everywhere. And at those days, all I did was just pound it and pound it and pound it. And I was still doing post at the time. So Indie Film Hustle was a side hustle for me. It wasn't my full-time gig at that point yet. It took me a few years before I could get it into full-time world. But I had a mastermind with a bunch of other podcast hosts at the time, and they were all buddies of mine. Because all of them reached out to me like, "Who the hell are you? Where'd you come?" I came in like a bull. It was just like, "Who are you? You're everywhere now. Like, I can't go on Facebook without seeing one of your posts. Like, what are you doing?" And we created a mastermind with a bunch of other podcasters and bloggers as well. And we started talking. And one day, one of the guys said, "Hey man, do you know you're number one on iTunes?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Go to iTunes and type up the word filmmaking." And I was like, "Oh shit, I'm number one." And then within 15 minutes, everybody on the planet knew that I was number one filmmaking podcast. And to this day, you still see it everywhere, which is true. So, but my buddy who was a competing podcast at the time, he's like, "I should have never said a word to you."
It's so funny. That's so funny.
But that's when I knew. That's when I knew. I knew about 3 months in. About 3 months in, I was like, "Oh, obviously there's something here."
That's awesome. So, all right. So you're 3 months in. You're getting on some big guests.
Well,
you're banging the. Well, I mean,
it's not you yet. Not you. Yeah.
Well, at episode 29. But now So you had your designs on bigger, right? You had your designs on building this brand. So when does the book come into play? The first book, like when does that book, clearly was a slice of your life, but was also a guide. It was a hybrid, which is a really interesting concept. So when did that become sort of a reality for you? When did you kind of sit there and say, "Okay, I'm going to make this more. This brand there's going to be extensions to this brand."
Right. Well, for me, it was first things up was This Is Meg, which was my first feature. So I needed to break through my fear of doing my first feature. I had the technical capabilities 15 years earlier to make a feature film, and I also I could have made one 15 years ago, but I was scared. I wouldn't say I was scared. I think it was this subconscious thing about what happened with me with The Mobster that associated feature film with pain. So I would constantly sabotage myself or give myself excuses and things like that. And finally, I decided to break through that. And Indie Film Hustle and the Tribe were the ones that gave me the strength to go out and do my first feature film, which I shot. And I think 30 days after I decided to do it, we were shooting. And we went to shoot it. And then I crowdfunded it as I was shooting it, because it was so inexpensive. And then the crowdfunding, paid for a lot of stuff. Maybe completely paid for everything. So I was in the black by the time I released it. And then we sold it to Hulu and that whole thing. So it was a really interesting world. But my thing was, I'm okay. If it doesn't work out, I just go back to my podcast. That's the way. That was the excuse. Like I had Indie Film Hustle to fall back.
But that's good though, right? You set expectations for yourself. There's a lesson in that. Like, you know what I mean? You said, I'm going to do whatever I can do, but I'm going to have a fallback. There's a lot of lessons in all this, which I want to get to in a minute. But that's a good place, just not to interrupt you, but I feel like that is a lesson that's great for you, for the audience, which is, I think a lot of people just don't plan in the way, like, I know you said you were doing it within 30 days, but that doesn't mean that you didn't put significant planning and thought into doing it and how you're going to do it. You're still going to do it. Of course you are, right? And then you're thinking through what's it going to be, how is it going to be. You're still recording 2 podcasts a week, still doing all this other stuff. So, maybe for the sake of the audience, because I wanted to definitely get some audience questions and get stuff that's going to, let them gain some of your knowledge, course knowledge based on what you did. How did you manage the time to be able to be running this thing, putting together the plan for a film? Because we all know putting together a film and crowdfunding alone it could be a full-time job. We all know this, or if you don't know it, you should know it. So how are you juggling all that, your family, your life and everything? How did you kind of say, this is how I'm going to put this together and not run into traffic?
I just ran into traffic. I wish I could tell you that I had this amazing calendar that I spread everything out in Everything was, minutely micromanaged I just did it. The shooting of the film was spread out over 3 or 4 weeks, 8 days. So because it was spread, I was doing it like when people were available, and we just go out and shoot and things like that. So we'd shoot some stuff, then I started crowdfunding, and then so it wasn't like I was shooting every day directly while I was crowdfunding. It was kind of like shooting on and off. So I'd shoot, then I come back and edit, shoot, come back and edit. But it all happened within a 3-week period, and it was about 8 full days of shooting, and then I just was a machine, man. Because of all my technical knowledge over the years I picked up in post, podcasts are very easy for me to produce. And I was just like pumping everything out and pumping out all the content, pumping out all the marketing. For many people listening, for the last 5 years, I've done everything myself.
Yep.
Literally every edit, every output, everything was being done by myself. Only recently that I finally put a team together, and now I'm like, I can't believe I did all this stuff by myself. It's insanity. But it was doing all of that. So it was doing the movie, doing the crowdfunding, doing the podcast, and also doing post when post jobs come up, because I still had to, feed the family, and then also doing the family as well. And it wasn't easy, but there was so much energy that I just loved doing it. I realized how much I loved doing what I was doing. I was like, oh, I found my happy place. I've been waiting a long time to find this happy place. I've been miserable. I was that angry, bitter filmmaker that I joke about so much. And I decided, like, oh, I'm happy here. Let me keep going. So I just did it, man. I know. I wish I had a fancier answer for you, but I just did it. It was just pure
I do too.
Brute strength, brute force. It was just brute force.
I would have liked a little fancier of an answer.
I'll send you my calendar, sir. It's micromanaged to the minute.
If I ask you a question, I'm like, oh, man. Actually, I was thinking, as I'm sitting and listening to you, I'm thinking that, if you want to expand your team, I actually have a really good idea for you. So you saw Breaking Bad, right?
I didn't know where this is going. Go ahead. Yes, of course.
And you remember the character Yul, right?
Yeah. Of course. Oh, of course. Yul's the best. Yeah.
Yeah. Your next hire needs to be somebody, like Yul or somebody like that, to just sit in that chair behind you with their arms crossed while you're doing the interviews. That's it.
Okay. Look. All right. So look. I've been known for having a very nice background when I record my shows. And there is a reason why I am in this void with the chair in the background. Mind you, my team is annoyed as hell with the chair. They've actually put stormtroopers in post in that chair. They've put other things in there because they just move the chair. I'm like, no, I just leave the chair there. We will get into why I'm in this void a little further down the line in this interview. But I like your idea. I like your idea. I think you're solid.
I think he'd be more than happy. But he'd probably be happy to feed him in ziti, and he probably would sit back there and you'd probably get any answer you want out of anybody.
But to answer your first question, which was about the book, so the movie came first. Then in 2018, I said, and I told you, I think at Sundance that year, I told you the idea for the book at that party that we were at in Adam's house, the one that we actually shot the movie in a year later. I told you, I'm like, hey, I'm thinking of writing this book, and here's the story. And I hadn't told that story to anybody. I mean, it's like a dark place. I don't like to go there. But I threw it at you, and you're like, that's a pretty cool story. That's a pretty cool idea. I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about writing the book for that. I think if it was the book or the movie. I think we were still in the movie stage. Like I was going to write a screenplay or something like that. And then a few months later, my friend Boris, who will still be known as Boris, told me, well, write a book. If you can't write the screenplay, write the book. I'm like, son of a bitch, I can write the book. And then I went down the path of writing this book, which I said, if I'm going to write this book, I want to create a blueprint of what not to do when you're chasing your filmmaking dream or your screenwriting dream or any dream for that matter. And it wasn't just to tell my story. It was truly to help people who read it, to give them options and to let people know that you can leave a bad situation if you can. But that was part of everything I was building with Indie Film Hustle. And I told my audience when I released the first 2 chapters and released the whole book, I told them, hey, if you want to know what the origin story of this, voice is on this podcast, here it is. This is the beginning, the true beginning of Shrapnel. I had a couple of, a little bit of hits here and there, but this was the beginning of the onslaught that the industry has done to me over the years. And this was a very big amount of shrapnel that I carried around. So that's why when I started the show, I was like, these guys have no idea what they're talking about. I got to throw my hat in the ring. I got to tell people what it's really like out here, because it's not peaches and cream and it's a lens here. And like, look at the cool new red. I'm like, that's all cool and that's part of it. But if you walk in thinking that's it, you're going to get destroyed. And I wanted to let people know the truth. So that's how the book came about. And it took me a year to write. I cried while writing certain chapters. It was just very difficult to go down that road again. And then it took me about like another 6 months to record the audiobook, because I was like, oh God, I don't want to read this again. It's just like, oh God, I'll read it. I actually wrote my second book, did the audiobook for the second book, and then went back and recorded the audio of Shooting for the Mob, because it was just so painful to do. But yeah, then that just kind of grew everything from there.
It's a great book. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't checked it out, you need to check it out. Shooting for the Mob. If you like, the gangster genre, but also learning about film along the way, that's it's a tremendous hybrid of that. I mean, you tell the story really, really well. It is a movie. I don't know why it hasn't gotten made yet. What's going on? I thought the financing was coming in. I was doing acting lessons. I've been practicing my Italian, as you could tell. I was practicing my Italian accent.
You are. And when we make the movie, you have a part.
Character, right? I'm actually in character as you speak. So I'm just saying.
You're very method. You're very method.
I'm very method. So, what's happening? Why isn't this happening? Why is it getting done?
Well, right now, I'm in some major transitions, which we'll discuss in a bit. We have some potentials for writers who are interested in writing the script. I don't want to write it. I have a feeling I'm going to have to write the first draft just to get the ball rolling on this. But I'd rather have someone else write it from a second perspective, not just mine. And so we have some people, and then we've got some interest in some interested parties. But you know how it is, man. Unless you got it, you need a minimum is you need a script. A book is nice, but they need a script. Once you have a script, then there's a conversation. Then there's like, oh, I can send a script to an actor. You could send a book to an actor, but then it's just like, by the time the script comes around, they might not be available anymore. And it's like, it's a whole thing. So, like I've told you before, I want the movie to be made one day. I think it will be made. I think that'll probably be the next thing I direct. And the only two caveats I have with anyone who gets involved in the project is I direct and my cinematographer is Boris. And that's it. I'm open to almost anything else.
Almost anything else.
Almost anything.
So, all right. So the 2 stipulations for the film. Of course, there's the third one, which is that, I am featured prominently.
You'll play me.
And I get to bring, I don't want to play you, man. I got to play one of the, hey, come on, man. One of the mobsters. I get to bring my own teamsters with me. That's it.
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
My acting writer is just basically, bourbon in the dressing room and
espresso,
and my teamsters. And that's my guys.
Fair enough. Hey, listen, we just need. I think at the end of the day, maybe next year I'll start writing something, and before I think I'll be able to write a first draft of that script before I'll be able to afford to hire one of the amazing writers that I have access to who want to write it, because I just can't afford paying them at the moment.
Well, it kind of brings a good question into play. So, well, for one, I think that's a great idea. I mean, because nobody's going to know the story the way you know it. I mean, that's one thing. But it brings up another interesting idea, which is you said that while you were filming This Is Meg, you were crowdfunding during it, which I find interesting. And because crowdfunding is not easy, and people don't realize that you really need to crowdsource months before you crowdfund, right? So my question to you is, how that early on, obviously you had established a camaraderie, and a community, a closeness with your community. Let's say that, okay, an intimacy with your community. Not for so many years at that point, but for quite a few, right? And you went to them to say, "Help me." Okay. First of all, was that easy? Second of all, what were some of the challenges that you faced? What was the response? I'm curious about that because it's going to lead into the question of why not crowdfund, not the whole movie, but why not crowdfund the fee for one of these writers who I'm sure you've negotiated a lower fee for, for all the value you brought them to help you finance the writing of the screenplay. I'm just curious because you've done it before and you bring tremendous value, and 99% of crowdfunding is the value you bring to other people, right? And asking them to bring you value back. Yeah. So I'm curious.
So I when I crowdfunded Meg, I promised myself I'd never do it again because it was so painful, and I don't particularly like asking for money in that way. Just me personally, I'm a guy who just I never asked my parents for money. I went out and did garage sales to get extra spending money so I could go buy my Garbage Pail Kids and my baseball cards and my comic books. So I'm just not that. I just don't like doing it. I did it for Meg because I wanted to go through the process. I also wanted to teach my audience what I learned. But I learned it's really difficult and if there's no other option, great. Right now, I don't know. Maybe that's something I'll play with in the future, but I would just, I don't know. Maybe I would just rather build a course and sell it and then use the proceeds from that to help me fund it. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, you're putting so much value out there. I think there's a lesson here too, is that what I see every day on Stage 32 and what I've spoken to you about a million times on the show and privately and when we're on panels together and everything like that, is that a lot of people don't understand that the reason why maybe they're not getting if you are putting yourself out there, maybe the reason why you're not getting a response is because you're not bringing any value. You just think the thing that you have is value, the screenplay, your talent or whatever, but you don't recognize the fact that the person you're trying to bring that to, they want value brought to them. They're human beings. They're just like you, right? Just like you said earlier, I talked to, Oscar-winning directors like the human beings, just they are. And they have feelings just like you, and they went through a lot of shit just like you would if you made that movie, right? So if you're not bringing value, that's probably one of the reasons why you're not getting a response. And then you have people that don't put themselves out there at all, which I totally get. Like I get that your mentality is I don't want to go hat in hand. And I think a lot of people feel that way about just like, I don't have the knowledge base is a little different. Obviously, I don't have the knowledge base. I don't have this. I don't know how to bring value. But at the end of the day, this world operates on the value you bring other people. Your relationships grow from the value you bring other people. And what you've done with this podcast and with this brand has been to bring tremendous value to everyone. And you have. And you've brought much of that value, certainly the podcast, for free. I know you sell courses. I know you do things and everything like that. And God bless you, you should. And people should pay you for it. But you bring so much value for free. I'm curious why you would think that you wouldn't get a response.
No, I don't think I wouldn't get a response. I don't think that's the case. I think I would, if we did crowdfund for Shooting for the Mob, I just know what's entailed in doing that. And it's kind of like I know the mountain I got to climb because I've climbed it before and I don't want to go back down that mountain. I might be able to get the money that I need to get the first draft done, but I don't know. It's just a lot of time, man. And time is something very valuable right now for me. It's a lot of time and effort. Sure. And I would much rather focus my energies elsewhere. More time and effort than it would take to write a first draft yourself? You see, that's a different conversation because the time and effort to write a draft yourself is, for me personally, on a writing standpoint, I've written a handful of screenplays in my life. And I've written both films. As far as stories are concerned, I had wonderful help from my actors on Ego and Desire on dialogue. We could talk about that later.
This is true.
So, but I feel that, I've been talking to some of the greatest minds in story for the last 6 years. And I think I've picked a couple of things up. So on another level, I just want to kind of go at it and say, like, I know I'm not a professional screenwriter, nor do I want to be a professional screenwriter. It's not one of my goals in life. But do I have enough to get this over the starting line, not the finish line? Can I get it over the starting line? Can I present something? Can I write something that is at a place where I send it to you, you read it and you go, you know what? I think this is something we can work with. This is a good starting place. I don't have any illusions or delusions that I'm going to be able to do the full thing myself.
But you're still going to have to raise the finance.
Afterwards.
You're still going to have to somebody rewrite it.
But the difference is a rewrite's cheaper, second. And also I'll have something to show people. So I can then maybe package it. Maybe we can have another conversation. Then I can talk to a producer like yourself and go, hey, here's the script. What do you think? What can we do with this? Is this something we can go out with? Can we maybe get some attachments to this? Can we have a conversation about it? I don't know. And then I become my listener all of a sudden. All of a sudden, I'm back to the same place that everyone listening to Bulletproof Screenwriting is at. Well, like, I got a script in hand. What can I do with it? And that's another journey now that I go on, and that's another journey that I share with my audience. So I think that for me, I would much rather go up the hill of writing a screenplay than to crowdfund for someone else to do it. That's me talking right now. In 6 months, I'd be like, screw it. I just want to get this thing going.
Yeah, I think my concern would be, and I know, see, we have the benefit over the audience because you and I have had many private conversations about this. Mm-hmm. So, like, we get to talk sort of the mobsters talking into their hands, like,
while the radio's playing loud, like, showers on.
Those you, like the NFL coaches that go like this with their plays, Right. My concern would be, and the only reason we're talking this through is not to put the audience through the paces of how the hell are we going to do your movie and how the hell are we going to get this done, but for just kind of almost like a knowledge basis, coming from a producer's angle or even from a screenwriter's angle, knowing some of the screenwriters that you've spoken with and knowing how I would operate and things that have been brought to me in the past that I've read where people are like, well, maybe you could do the rewrite and we'll pay you. There are times where you read those scripts and you go, this is a page one rewrite. Like, this is a total rewrite. So, and that brings you back to square one, because then the rewrite's not cheaper. In a lot of ways, the rewrite could even become more expensive because it's, you're really coming up with a whole totally new concept. I've seen this. It's funny because I've seen this from the producer's side of things where I was producing a movie. We had 3 producers on it, and one of them was the main money guy. And the 2 other producers, me and the other guy, liked it well enough. We thought it was good. We thought it needed a little polish or whatever. But the guy with the money was like, nope, I don't like any of it. And it ended up going to another writer, and the concept stayed. So the original writer got like a story by, but the script changed dramatically and in a much more positive way, I might add, because they brought in somebody that was, pretty top drawer. Now that, of course, included the money and everything like that, but that was just the producer's way of looking at it. It was like, well, this is the way we want to get it done. So I don't know, something to think, something to mull, my friend, because again,
among other
so
things,
much value to this community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that the community would get behind you.
Yeah, look, everyone listening, if anybody is interested if you think this is going to be a thing that you want me to crowdfund the beginnings of, trying to get the money to get a writer to write Shooting for the Mob with me, then let me know. You could email me, you could text me, not text me, but you can email me, you can message me, hit me up on social media. I'm curious because I haven't even, I just don't like doing it. But if the audience is like, look, man, we want to see this movie made, I'm sure I could do it. I'm sure we could raise the financing for it. It's just it's a hill right now that at the moment where I'm sitting right now, I can't even think about going up. I would much.
Fair enough.
And also don't forget too that like the story is the story. Like, yeah, we're going to change a few things to make it for the movie, make it more adaptable to the cinema. but no one's coming in and changing the story. Like, you know what? Maybe we should make Alex a girl. I'm like, no, it's not going to happen. Like, there's certain things that have to stick within it, open in certain areas to kind of make it more cinematic, because the book is a biography, which is not as exciting as a cinema could be. So it will change, but I don't think it's a page one. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think the concept is the concept. The concept's not going to change. We're not going to completely derail from where we went in the book. So I don't think I have a fear of that. But I do think that, like, there could be 30%, 40% shifted around as far as arcs and maybe adding in characters or combining characters or things like that. Yeah. But the general, where we're going is where we're going. It's like, there's a mobster, there's a filmmaker, you know, and how we get to the end and how he gets out and all that kind of stuff and everything, all the mayhem that happens within. I mean, some of the stuff that's in that book, you can't write it. Like I said, the beginning of the book, I was like, if you guys believe this is based on a true story, and if you believe this is fiction, I should get a fucking award for fiction, because who make this shit up?
Well, look, man, you know, if you decide to go down the crowdfunding path, there's the extra added bonus that you could get rid of the extra olive oil and balsamic vinegar inventory. That could go for like $5 donations. You can get one of those.
It's all gone. It's all gone. I think we have a handful of the vinegar left. Only a few bottles left. Honestly, olive oil doesn't go. It doesn't age well. Olive oil needs to be fresh, but vinegar does. So there might be a couple of vinegar bottles left over, but
hey, sign those motherfuckers. I charge like $10,000 for those. Limited edition.
What?
Number them.
There's only 3 or 4 left. That's it. You know, $10,000 each. We're out the door.
I freaking love it. I love it. All right, so you did the book.
Mm-hmm.
Life is moving on. Things are happening.
Yeah.
You're doing some education. Things like that are going on. So now, talk to me a little bit about, you know, we started talking about extensions of the brand. And I think that this is fascinating. I actually would like to even talk a little bit about that, because I think that creatives don't understand in 2021, I think we're in now, I don't know, this pandemic, It could be 2040. I have zero idea. But branding in this era, your personal brand is so important. Now, you have built a brand on being, you know, like you said, sort of the regular guy, the everyman doing this thing, okay, knowing it and being there with everybody else, and the person that's going to talk with people, not at them, not down, not up to them, okay? And you built this really nice tribe. How did you see your brand as this book is coming out and as everything is growing? How did you see your personal brand, and where did you want to take it at that point?
Well, right now, my personal brand is really attached to Indie Film Hustle and Bulletproof Screenwriting and Filmtrepreneur and all the other entities that I have around Indie Film Hustle. So, you know, recently I opened up a new company and a new podcast, a new everything that's aimed more at asking the bigger questions about life and digging a lot deeper into why we're here and, you know, what are we doing and what's the purpose of all of this? These are like very large questions. And I wanted to kind of dig deep into that stuff. And that company is called Next Level Soul. And that company and that podcast, I've had the pleasure of interviewing some very big people already that they reached out to me wanting to be on the show, and I'm asking them questions that they don't get asked normally. So for me as a brand, to answer your question, I'm a little bit of everything. So I'll you know, for a large part of my tribe, I'm the screenwriting guy. You know,
yeah, I can't let you get away with it. All right, so I'm gonna zone in.
Tell me.
So. All right. So like, that's like me saying, okay, my brand is Stage 32. Yes, I'm the face of the brand.
Sure.
Totally, completely got it. What else do I do? Well, I'm an actor, producer. Yeah. Okay. Right. But if you ask me, and I hope that, you know, this is what I think, if you went to my social media and you didn't know me, okay, and you just started scrolling through, I would want you to see what I feel my brand is or tries to be, which is inspiration, aspiration, motivation. And by the way, if you're not following me on freaking Instagram, take out your phone right now. Even if you're driving, take out your phone right now and put in RB, my initials, walks into a bar, and click that follow button. I bring a lot of value. But seriously, that's my brand. My brand
it's awesome. I love it.
Self-plug, man. I got to plug it up. Inspiration, aspiration, motivation, because that's really what I want to bring to people. I want people to understand that I am just like them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I am scratching and clawing just like them. There is no straight line in this business. It doesn't matter. Even if you've accomplished something, people think there's such a thing as a meritocracy in this business. Mm-hmm. And in small, tiny pockets that might exist. But the reality is you're jumping through hoops every day. And sometimes those hoops are on fire. And sometimes they're 5 freaking floors off the ground on fire. And you got to get through them. Okay. But the point of the matter is that it can be done. Right. Now, I feel like you bring a lot of the same things to the table. You bring inspiration, aspiration, motivation. So I look at myself that way. That if I had a branding exercise, if I was sitting down doing, one of those insane type of things where you're really kind of self-evaluating yourself, that would be what I would put down for my brand. So we know the brand, we know you're synonymous with Indie Film Hustle, and I get that, and all the other ones, Bulletproof and everything like that. But how do you think others see you? How do you see yourself? What's the brand of Alex Ferrari?
For me, I think other people see me as someone who wants to help not only filmmakers, but people in general, but I'm known more for filmmakers and screenwriters, giving them the straight truth. There's integrity within the brand that I've created for myself. In many ways, I've become a defender of the little guy, with, breaking the story on Distributor and all of that whole thing that happened, and fighting, predatory distributors and creating the things I've created to help filmmakers avoid being taken advantage of, all that kind of stuff. So I think as a brand, my personal brand, I think it's that, as someone who's trying to help, trying to inspire, trying to help people get through their own blockages, help guide them through, the paths of not only the industry, but also of life in many ways. Because a lot of the stuff that we talk about, I created a podcast that's all about motivation, the Filmmaking Motivation Podcast, which is just me talking for 3 to 5 minutes about motivating you to get off your ass and do it, or to think about things a little bit differently. It's about that for me. It's always been about being of service to the audience and being of service to people. And when I discovered that, that's when I became happy. I was miserable for most of my life, being honest. Of course, I'm not it wasn't like a troll or anything, but no offense to all the trolls out there, please don't tweet me. But generally speaking, I was extremely unsatisfied with my professional life, and the moment I launched Indie Film Hustle, I was happy. And then I started getting addicted to helping people. And then now the different brands I've created have just kind of branched out into trying to help more people and guide people in whatever way I can. If I can help you avoid a predatory distributor, if I can help you get off your ass and work out, if I can help you, in any way, shape, or form, I think that's the brand that I've created. And in a way of, being raw, but being loving at the same time. And that's it's not a very easy balance to do, because a lot of people are raw and brutal, but I'm raw and I am encouraging. So like the saying I always say is, follow your dream, but don't be an idiot. And that's basically sums me up pretty much. Like, follow your dream, but like do it right. Think about it. Don't just think pie in the sky, because I've been that guy. I've been delusional guy. I've been bitter guy. I've been everybody listening. I've been everything you guys have been. I've been out of the business. I've been, in a small market, looking in from the outside. I've been in the business, looking in out. I've done a lot of stuff. So if I can help in my journey, and I'm learning new stuff every day, but if I can help people on their journeys by either digging into other people's, like my guest journey, or my own, that's kind of what I do with everything I do, including my new show and everything I do with Indie Film Hustle.
Yeah, that's a better answer, by the way.
All right, I do what I can.
Now you got to trim it down to like 2 or 3 words for the Alex Ferrari personal brand. But seriously,
yeah, it's a lengthy answer.
Yeah. Some people might go, for like coffee or something and come back. But although most will be riveted. No, you said a lot of things. You said a lot of things in there that I actually think are really cool and worth unpacking, because it is part of your persona and part of it. It really is a lesson. Like you said, don't be an idiot. Of course, I have the one that says rule number 1, don't be a dick. Rule number 2 is see rule number 1, right? But the thing is, there is really a second rule to that. Obviously, don't be a dick. But the way that you're not a dick, and sometimes you don't know that you're being one, right? Sometimes you don't realize you're being one because you're just saying like, oh, look at my. And again, we talked earlier about the value you bring. The other person's a human being, right? So the other part of it is the knowledge base. And the other part of it is understanding how the course operates, right? You just said, I'm learning every day. I love that, because that is a life mission of mine. I want to learn. I'm a sponge. I want to learn everything. And if I'm really excited about something, forget it. You can't, there's not enough that you can put in front of me. Mm-hmm. But the point of the matter is that I also recognize the fact that when I walk into a different industry or a different arena, okay, that the people I'm going to be meeting along the way, and certainly the people I do want to surround myself with to be successful, I need to understand their business and how it operates, so I don't look like an amateur, right? So I don't come across as somebody that has so that they don't look at me like we were saying earlier, where we can tell 5 minutes and we're like, yeah, I don't want to be that guy, right? So there's a great lesson for the audience in there, in the fact that, and there's one other one where you said, I'm happy. So, kind of unpacking everything you just said, in a lot of ways, you have done something where you feel you are giving tremendous value to other people, and that brings you happiness. And within that, you are on a constant quest for knowledge so that you could be better and better with each episode and each thing, and that you could be more, and you can inform, and you could know your guests and bring better interviews and bring better value. That's a lesson to everybody listening, because that's exactly how you should be running your life, whether you're a screenwriter, an actor, a filmmaker, a producer, or you're not even in this business and you happen to stumble upon this podcast somehow. That is exactly the way you got to be. You got to know the industry so that people don't look at you like you're an amateur. You have to be on a constant quest to learn. And you got to get rid of the idea of balance and embrace the idea of happiness in all pursuits. Mm-hmm. So that means, when people say like, wow, you work 80 hours a week some weeks, wow, like that must be like, I'm like, that's a choice. Sometimes, and I actually, some weeks I enjoy it. Some weeks I want to kill myself. Some weeks, but it's happiness in all pursuits. So it's interesting to hear you say that you had been unhappy for so long, and then you started doing this, and you got the reaction you got, and the happiness and everything came with it.
It's because you find, look, it takes, everyone has their own path and their own journey. And for me, it took me 38, 39 years, something like that, to find this. And I teased it in 10 years earlier, and I rejected it, which was, I got the exact same feeling when I released my broken DVD, when I was helping filmmakers, and I got that feeling, and I still get people talking to me about that. Like, I still get people who tweet me the picture, like, I found my DVD, and like, it's still a thing, which is so cool. But I rejected it. Why did I reject it in 2005? Is because my ego was still going, I'm not an educator. I'm a filmmaker. I'm the next this or the next that. That's where the ego was at that point in my life. I think everybody who gets into the game all wants to be the greatest. They want to be Kubrick. They want to be Spielberg. They want to be Nolan. If you're a writer, you want to be William Goldman. You want to be the greatest screenwriter of. You want to be that. Everyone gets into the game for that. But the truth and the honesty is that there's only one Stanley Kubrick. There's only one Steven Spielberg, and there'll never be another one like him. But you can do what you can do at your level the best you can, and what makes you happy. And, any delusions I might have had of being the next Quentin Tarantino, which, by the way, I'm sure everyone listening here, I'm sure there's hundreds, if not thousands, who like, I'm the next this or the next that. You can't be the next somebody else. You got to be the first you. And that's right. That's what I came to grips with. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do me. And my path is not like anybody else's. Look, dude, I've opened up a podcast in 2015. And all the doors that I was trying to get in and talking to people and building relationships with people that I've wanted to build up in those 40 years prior have swung open for me. I'm building relationships and friendships with people like yourself and other people that would have not been able to get access to if I was just outside the door knocking, going, hey, help me, help me, help me.
Right.
But so there isn't really this is what I want to happen. I want, when Shooting for the Mob gets made, I want major people that I work with on the project to have come from the podcast connections that I've made or relationships that I've built, whether that be screenwriters, producers, actors, whoever. I think that's an amazing story because there's just no one's ever walked that path. I'm walking that. There is nobody who's used a podcast to leverage a podcast to make their movie in the way I'm doing it. And by the way, not my intention. I didn't go in 2015 like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open up a podcast, which is that's going to open up all these doors. No, it's just happened over the years, organically and naturally. So that for me is what I found when I discovered my thing, the thing I'm good at, the thing I want to do. And that still includes making movies, and that still includes writing, but now it's not just making movies. Making movies is one aspect of many things I want to do, like writing a book, doing a podcast, doing a show, creating education, speaking. All those things hold a space on that shelf where it used to be only directing. And now directing is one of many things, which makes me so much happier because most directors are miserable because they don't get to direct very often. They're always hunting. Look, honestly, directing is one of the toughest art forms to do. I'm not saying all directors are miserable, but it's a very difficult thing where trust me, if I know the directors listening at the highest levels or the lowest levels, much rather be directing than finding money, dealing with politics, casting people. They would just rather just show up to a set and go action and cut. Let me create. Yeah. It's a brutal, brutal business. And one thing one thing I discovered, and it just makes the most sense. And it's a little bit morbid, but it's true. In 50 years, in 100 years, no one's going to give a shit about what you did. In 500 years, absolutely, they're not going to give a shit about what you did. And if in 1,000 years they're still talking about you, you're one in the billion. Because who are we talking about from 1,000 years ago? Jesus, Buddha, Genghis Khan, Alex. There's very few, Socrates. There's a handful of people that hold throughout history, which is a short history, by the way. We're only talking about a few thousand years that we've been recording it. So if you think that a movie that you make or a screenplay that you write now is going to be talked about for millennia, possibly, but that's very rare, and look at, and I always go back and like Clark Gable, one of the biggest movie stars of his day. If you ask anybody on the street today, how many people who know who Clark Gable is? That number is starting to drop more and more and more and more and more. Like, and in about 20 years, 30 more years, other than Gone with the Wind, what other Clark Gable movies are there? Unless you're a cinephile, no one cares. Do you see what I'm saying? So it gives you a perspective on life. And like, why chase for something that like, oh, it's going to do this and this. No, man, just do stuff that makes you happy. Do stuff that you're helping other people in one way, shape, or form, whether that be through art or through something else.
Well, now that I feel like we're through the most depressive part of the show, which ended with, you just got to be happy. You just remember that they're completely irrelevant, and then we're like, but be happy. Like your work.
I mean, your work means nothing. But it
means nothing. So really, I mean, where can we go from here? Like,
I say that.
I feel like we could pick any topic and move up.
Listen, RP. The reason why I said that is that I don't say it to be like, no, whatever you do here doesn't matter. It actually does a lot. But when we're chasing all of these dragons that really don't matter at the end of the day, do something that makes you happy, because all you have is your life here while we're here, and create things that make you happy and do things that make you happy, and things work out. It just does. Like, trust me, from someone who had to do, I mean, you can go look at my IMDb, man. I did a lot of post, man. I worked on a lot. I probably finished 60 or 70 features in my day. And 3 of them I enjoyed. 4 of them I enjoyed. The rest of them were for $1, for a check. And I'm grateful for the work when I got it, but I wish I would have figured this out earlier. Not the podcast thing, but just figuring out I got to make myself happy. It took me a long time to figure that out. So that's all I'm saying is find that bliss. Do that what Joseph Campbell says. Find your bliss. Do that, because all this ego, all this stuff, like I'm going to be the next great thing. I'm going to get that shit out of the way. Just do stuff that makes you happy, and other people will feel that energy. And I think you could agree with that. If you're enjoying what you're doing, if you're writing, if you're directing, that energy is addictive for people working with you and also people watching or consuming your content.
Yeah. So I'm curious of what year Zoloft became your main sponsor.
I mean, man, listen, pharmaceuticals, man, it's the wave of the future. I'm just saying.
I mean, I'm not on any antidepressants, but I want to pop like 10 of them right now, and a couple of shots of bourbon.
So I can imagine. I could hear Amanda. What happened to RB? He just doesn't want to do anything anymore. Oh no, I just did this podcast with Alex. It fucked me up really bad.
Oh God. No, listen, I get what you're saying. You do have to find your bliss. I will say this, man. I think that people, when they're unhappy in this business, it's for a lot of people, I think it's self-inflicted from the standpoint that it comes back to what I said earlier about knowing the industry and knowing how it operates. Like when you are just blind emailing somebody, this is my script or this is my log line, or writing, if you are so unaware that you're targeting somebody who's super busy and you write them a blind 8-paragraph DM on Instagram, then the first thing that person's going to think is, this person doesn't know how the industry operates. I have no relationship with this person. This person wants something from me without offering me any value. And then they don't get a response, and then they wonder why they don't get a response, and then they get depressed. They get beaten down and everything like that. What they don't realize is that if you don't, this business is hard enough, and it is a very, very difficult business to break through in. And it's a difficult, even when you do break through, it's a difficult business to stay in. Okay. Tastes change all the time. Things change all the time. I mean, you look at the moment we're in right now. 2 years ago, you couldn't sell a romantic comedy. Today, it's like it's like, hey, I got an idea. A guy meets a girl. They're like, sold. Get it. Fantastic. Where does it take place? Doesn't matter. Just, we'll take it. Like everybody wants romantic comedies, right? So, but you got to know that, and you got to know the business, and you got to know how it operates and how it works. And that's where I feel people lose their bliss, because everybody comes in, as you said, not very eloquently in the way that maybe want to stab myself in the heart. You came in and you basically said that, everybody comes in from a place of like energy, and they're all excited and they want to create. And we do. Everybody comes in, they want to succeed, they want to be artists. And then what they find out the hard way sometimes, but if you're open-hearted and open-minded to this, it becomes easier. They find out that this is a business, okay? And you could write the most beautiful script in the world. By the way, you could be the next Spielberg or better. Let me put it a different way. You'd be more talented than Spielberg. And the reality of the situation is, if nobody knows, or you don't put yourself in the right positions, or you don't have the right contacts, right, or if the moment isn't the moment where Spielbergian type movies are being made, right, you may not succeed. You may have all the, you can win the most prestigious screenwriting contest in the world, which I don't even know what the hell that is anymore. And don't tell me it's the nickel, but just don't. But you'll just say, like, there is prestigious screenplay award contest number 7, and you won it. The reality of the situation is, it may be that unbelievable piece of writing that makes people go, oh my God, you are brilliant. And there still might not be a market or an audience, or the timing could be wrong for that thing. And that's what pains me. And what I have empathy in spades, as I know you do too. And running a platform like Stage 32, where you hear these stories every day, you build up, and the answers become natural, just like the way we talk about them. And like you said, it's not harsh, it's truthful. Okay, it's totally truthful. It comes from a place of honesty. But it kills me when I see like a writer say, Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm getting all this great feedback. I got a script request. I got a double recommend. I got this. I got that, and nobody's buying it. And then you look at what go tell me what the screenplay is about, and they tell you it's like this dystopian, crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, that's a $120 million movie. Nobody knows you. It's not based on IP. There's a million reasons why, but it's up to you to know those reasons why,
Right.
and then go to the place where you have the best chance of success with that, so that you're not getting beat up by 1,000 no's that are almost rhetorical. They're going to happen because it's not a fit for those people. You got to go for where it's a fit. But to do that, you have to have that knowledge. And if you don't have that knowledge and all you have is the excitement of creating the work, the bliss is going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to recognize how the business operates. And once you understand both of those avenues, the bliss comes back, because then it becomes hunger, man. Then it becomes like, how am I going to do this? Fuck yeah, Netflix bought 50 romantic comedies. How do I get there? What production company sold those scripts? How do I get to that production company? What manager repped those writers? How do I get to that manager? Like, that's the way your mind starts thinking. Not like, oh my God, I got such great, coverage on this thing. And it's, where do I go? How do I get there? What relationships? And that's what you were talking about knocking down the doors, opening those doors. And again, creating a situation where you are talking to people that could help you with your career, but your first move is to give them value, to let them come on your show and promote what they're doing, talk about themselves a little bit, talk about what's coming up. And, and that's what it's all about. Right. So that kind of logic and understanding, I hope for people that are listening is a lesson. I hope that I have talked you off the 50th floor balcony that Alex put you on, and made you realize that there is actually a path and a life beyond, for your art. So,
oh my God, you've made me feel bad about what I said, sir.
And for the two of you still listening, thank you.
I'm just kidding. Everything I said, I come from a good place. I'm just trying to present perspective on stuff. I
agree, and you always do, That was a little cyanidish, but it was fantastic. So, tell me a little bit more about who have been. Actually, I'm actually going to ask this I'm going to ask you a two-parter. Tell me some of your favorite guests that you've had so far. But even more so, I'd love to hear like pieces of advice you've heard from people that made you go like, wow, like that actually stopped you in your tracks. Like,
some of my favorite conversations have been recent, because in late last year, I got I had a kind of run of amazing guests, starting with Alex Proyas, who was the director of The Crow and iRobot, and then Oliver Stone showed up. And Oliver was a great conversation. It's just, when you're talking to an icon, it's very difficult to accept what's going on. So if you go back and look at that conversation, I'm just so happy to be talking to him, and I'm just asking him questions that he's like, wow, you did your homework. I'm like, yeah, man, I know you started off in horror, man. Like, you started off, your first two features were horror films. So how did that go? And like, how did you go from there to Platoon? And then the run.
Did he do The Hand?
Yeah,
did he do The Hand?
Yeah, he did The Hand. Yeah, he did that. That was the second.
Yeah, all right.
With Michael Caine. Was it Michael Caine, right? Yeah. So he did the second. He did The Hand, and then he did I think years earlier he did that, but then he won the Oscar for Midnight Express, and then he told me the realities of that. Winning the Oscar, he was like, yeah, that's great, but everyone thought I was an idiot, and I couldn't get work, and I had to go off and do Salvador by myself. So he goes on this run of like, and he did a movie a year for like a decade, and every movie was just like, what the hell? Like, it was, everything was just being hit out of the park. Boom, 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 boom. It was a run like no other, really. It was pretty remarkable to watch. So talking to Oliver was pretty interesting. Talking to him was humbling, not because of who he was, but understanding that he is still dealing with the same crap that every independent filmmaker is, because he's an independent, essentially. He does studio movies but he's raising financing. He's like, yeah, I can't get financing for the next film. And I'm like, you're Oliver Stone, man. Like, if you can't get financing, what chances do the rest of us have on a certain extent? So Oliver was really interesting. I think Rick Linklater was a great piece of advice. And his advice was, however long you think it's going to take, it's going to be twice as long and be twice as hard.
That is an excellent quote. And I mean, God, man, that kind of perspective, right? So much of life, I know you're on this journey as well. I mean, we talk a lot, but so much of life is perspective. Like, if you could understand, and we talked about this on a million interviews, but the long game. Like, if you can embrace the long game, and that means that's not an invitation to be lazy. Mm-hmm. You know, that's not an invitation, but it is an invitation to de-stress yourself. It's an invitation to take care of yourself, because things don't happen overnight in this business. So that's why I love that quote. Twice as long. I would argue maybe 5 times as long as 5 times as hard.
No, exactly. But it's gonna take a lot longer than you think it's gonna be, and it's gonna be a lot harder than you think it's gonna be. And it's so true, because when you walk into this business, you're like, oh well, in 5 years I'll do this. Like, nope, it's gonna probably take you 10 or 15, and it's just the way the game is. Rick was an amazing conversation. Ed Burns was great because Ed was a fan of the show, which blew my mind. And he's like, I read your book, and I've been listening about distribution. And because Ed is one of those guys he's still hustling. You know, he's Ed Burns, but the way he makes his movies, to have the control that he does, he's still Brothers McMulling it. And the way he makes his movies. So he was a really amazing conversation. Barry Sonnenfeld.
He's a great guy. I was just going to say, Ed Burns is a perfect example. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I actually got to meet him back in 2003 when I was running Razor. We threw a party for a movie called Confidence that he was in with Dustin Hoffman and Rachel Weisz. And I, Ed, East Coast guy, sat down and did a whole East Coast vibe. And he's one of these guys, I remember him saying back then, because he didn't really, for him to get like starring roles, he had to write his own shit and raise his own money. Like, he did it all on his own. This was the first time, or one of the first times, that he was actually being handed a leading role, co-starring against Weisz and Hoffman. And, we're sitting at the after party, and he's like, my biggest fear, I remember him saying to me, my biggest fear, he goes, that this movie flops and everybody says this guy can't carry a movie and I have to go back and start raising money for my own stuff again. And that's pretty much what happened. We threw the party at the after party at Sundance. The movie played well at Sundance. I mean, it did fine. And, it sold. It got a release and everything like that. But the studio, these are the things that got you control. The studio didn't know how to market it. They didn't know whether to market it as like a comedy, a drama. They didn't know. He was perfectly fine in it. But here he is all these years later, and he's scratching and clawing.
Still doing it.
And he's still hustling. And that's a lesson there, too. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sonnenfeld, too.
Barry Sonnenfeld, his one of the funniest conversations I've ever had in my life.
He is funny, yeah.
Oh, my God. He got started off in porn, and his story about his first set porn, when he shot the first 6, he shot 30 porns in 6 days to help pay off his 16 millimeter camera. If you want to hear the insane story, it's in the first 10, 15 minutes of that episode. You should definitely listen to it. But and I've been so blessed. I mean, Edward Zwick, it was like sitting.
Oh yeah.
Edward Zwick was talking to Edward Zwick was like talking like I was in the church of cinema. I was in awe. His energy, his presence, and the way he spoke about cinema was unlike anything I spoken to anybody about. It was just like this reverence for cinema and the way he approached. Because I'm such a big fan. I mean, Jesus Christ, I'm such a big fan of his films. But you could tell that filmmaker made Glory and Last Samurai and all the movies that he's made in his career. Those kind of guys, man. Talking. Oh, Kevin Reynolds. Freaking love talking to Kevin Reynolds, just like, dude, Robin Hood. And you start talking to some of these directors who directed some of the movies that you grew up with. I mean, Nick Castle with Last Starfighter, and like you start hearing all these stories, and the more you start talking to these some of them legends in the film industry, you start realizing that everyone's got the same hustle, man. We all got to walk this. Some people just get better opportunities. Some places, right place, right time. I keep talking about how Hollywood takes away the keys from some directors. Like I want to see another Wolfgang Peterson movie. I want to see another Peter Weir film. I want to see another Brian De Palma film with a Hollywood budget again. I want to see, but Hollywood takes, and it's a shame. And I'm talking to a lot of directors, not of those, not that the keys have been taken away from, but like Taylor Hackford, man. Freaking,
yeah.
I mean, and the list goes on and on. I've been so blessed to talk to these amazing directors. But that perspective, that's the one thing I love about talking to people like them, is that, and Eddie said this, Eddie Burns said this the best. He's like, Alex, you're creating a service that you don't understand that you're doing. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, when I just got finished with Brothers McMullen, I was walking in New York somewhere in Broadway, and I'm just walking, and all of a sudden Spike Lee jumps out like 20 feet ahead of me and just starts walking towards something. And all I wanted to do is run up to Spike and go, Spike, she's got to have it. School Days, do the right thing. How'd you do it? Boom, boom, boom. But I didn't have the balls to do it. He got in his car and he left. Mm-hmm. And you ask those questions of people's idols. And they understand, and it was like a 30 or 40 minute conversation about Brothers McMullen. He told me every little part of it. Troy Duffy. Oh God, that was a hell of a conversation about Boondock Saints. What a great conversation that was. Yeah. And talking to him. But he goes, you do that service for people. I'm like, I guess I do. Because he goes, now you have that private conversation with someone, you record it, and now everybody in the world can have access to that kind of information. Like, what was it like shooting The Crow? When the things happen on the set of The Crow, and you ask Alex and he tells you, what happened with Troy Duffy and the whole explosion of his documentary of how he got screwed over and Harvey Weinstein. Those are conversations that you have at parties. You've had these at parties with these people, but you don't record them generally. And some stuff isn't for public air, but some stuff is. And those stories really are. What I was trying to say is, the perspective of these guys and these gals that I talk to, especially the ones who are at a higher level in our industry, it just gives you a perspective on the journey, because you realize that they are human. They started like you did. I had Russell Carpenter, the DP of Titanic and the new Avatars, if they ever get released, James. And I asked him, first question out of my mouth. He's like, yeah, I'm going to talk about Titanic and True Lies and Ant-Man and all the other things you've done in your life, Russell. But how'd you get Ghouls 2? And he was floored by that. But that's the kind of thing that humanizes. Like, hey, they have to hustle.
That's exactly it. The humanization of it all. I mean, that's what people don't realize. The human beings, and even so, the people that you've mentioned that have been put in direct to jail, or are deemed too old or too dusty. People like Taylor Hackford have found ways in other projects and people, and all that. But I'm saying, there are still a lot of people. And what I think the general public doesn't realize, or maybe other creatives don't realize for the purposes of this show, is everyone has peaks and valleys.
Everyone.
And everyone is a human being, and everyone has emotions. And even though it might seem on the surface that, wow, what a career, there have been a million projects that got away, a million things that were going to go, didn't go, a million things they've lost out to, a million times they were told that they weren't the right person for the job, got fired off of it before it ever got going, whether you're a writer, an actor, it doesn't matter. It happens all the time. The mission is survival and advancement, right? It's to keep going and to keep learning from it.
Yeah, I mean, the one guy I forgot to mention is Joe Carnahan. And Joe's interview I had with Joe, one of my favorite conversations I ever had on the show. And he's telling me stories about how the investors of Narc are not paying people while they're shooting it, and he's telling Ray Liotta and Jason Patric, I would walk if I were you, because if this guy doesn't pay you and all this kind of stuff. And how he...
No one Liotta, I'm sorry, I'm actually shocked he didn't.
mean, how he walked away from Mission Impossible 3. You know, like he got stuck into the studio system, and he, you know, Tom. I mean, he's working with Tom Cruise on Mission Impossible 3, and you like walk away. That's pretty damaging to your career. It's like, I mean, wait a minute, if he got that opportunity, like, so then he goes off and makes Smoking Aces. He's like, and that was basically Smoking Aces was a big FU to Hollywood. That was like, it was a studio film, but it was just like this explosion of anger that he had. And when you watch that movie, it's just full kinetic. And he's one of the, in my opinion, one of the most underrated writers of his generation. In my personal opinion, he's got films. I wanted to see Pablo, Killing Pablo. I would love to have seen that movie. Narc did it really well, but that would have been great. But all these, and you start hearing stories like that. Like, you know, I talked to Joe the other day, and you know, he's still hustling, man. He's still going through stuff. Like, it's not like a magical door that's opened up and like, oh, well, you're this guy now, and you can do whatever you want. You just call up somebody and someone gives you a check. Doesn't work that way. He's still hustling.
No, the biggest of the big still have to pitch. And, you know, people are like, you know, like, how do I get to Netflix? How do I get to Netflix? Like, you don't realize that a lot of these shows that are showing up with star attachments, of course, have been packaged. But there are plenty of shows that I know of personally by big people that have been pitched, that have been turned down everywhere. There's a couple of big ones that are out there right now that, you know, and a couple of them that are still that are running around town right now. I can tell you, I'm not going to say who it is, but I mean, big name talent attached to it, and it's being rejected everywhere. And you would think in a second, like most of us would say, this person, whatever he wants to pitch, somebody's getting in the business of this person, and it's being rejected all over the place. It happens all the time. People don't realize, even like, you know, you look at Mank, like the David Fincher, you know, project that went last year. That script, his father wrote that script in 1993 or 1997, and he's been trying to get that thing made forever. And it was just that Netflix decided they wanted to be in the David Fincher business, and that's how that got made. So this stuff happens all the time. I mean, what I want to ask you though is, you know, when you talk to Ed Zwick, did you tell him that he's about 10 to 20 years from his life's work being completely irrelevant and obsolete?
Why do you say that, sir?
Well, because, you know, as time goes on, all of our work is completely, nobody cares anymore.
I hate you, sir. I hate you. Fucking
like...
But listen, look, on a grand scale, dude, in 1,000 years.
Did you tell him that 99% of people walking down the street wouldn't know who he is? Did you tell him that?
I mean, I'm gonna argue that 99% of the people walking down the streets don't know who Edward Zwick is. Only filmmakers do. That's.
I'm just busting you.
And that's okay. Listen, we're all gonna die one day.
Oh, so funny. All right, so let's talk a little bit about. All right, so you're crushing it. You got all these. You got the podcast going. You got the other podcast going. You started the new podcast, and then a couple of months ago, you decided that you were going to go into the witness protection program, and now you're in a room in some undisclosed location.
Correct.
And this was, as you would say, on the corner of ego and desire, a bold choice. And the witness protection program. So
bold choice.
First of all, what are you running from? And
well, isn't it obvious? The mob. Obviously, they finally found me, and I had to go into witness relocation. That's why I have a nondescript background with the chair, and the chair.
Yeah, which, by the way, Vito is sitting there right now with that lighting. It would be even more menacing. As the day goes on, he would look even more. If you like put a little front light coming down on him, like a little
nice.
sort of
Very
kind of. Oh yeah, like he's a demon or an angel. Get it.
So yeah, if people in the tribe might have noticed that my background has changed. Yoda is missing. People don't know where Yoda is. I know that's very important. And all my kind of cool stuff that I have in the background normally. By
the way, Yoda's thousands of years old. He's not irrelevant.
Yoda will be around in 1,000 years. I promise you.
I'm saying.
I promise you. Listen. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you this. In 1,000 years, there'll probably be a Jedi religion, and Superman will be considered a real person in history.
Well, look. So there's hope for everybody now. See, let's bring it back to the optimistic.
I'm just bringing it together.
Much more optimistic. Good. Everybody, you could remove your lips from the exhaust pipe, and it's all good.
You're killing me. You're killing me. No pun intended. So anyway,
So in all seriousness, though, you moved. Oh, you want to tell the story? Do you want me to say?
I'll
tell people what you've done.
Well, I'll tell the story. A few years.
Tell the story. I'm going to sit back here and enjoy my coffee.
Okay, so a year or two ago, I started thinking about moving out of LA, and many people are like, "Wait a minute, LA is the place to be if you're in the film industry, all this kind of stuff." And you can't, why if you're there and you've made it, and I purchased a home there, and so many of my friends were like, "Dude, you've made it. You bought a home in LA, like in a good neighborhood, and all this kind of stuff, and you're." Everything. And I was in LA for 13 years, and I started thinking about moving, and then the pandemic happened and then kind of delayed everything. But a few months ago, I finally did the move, sold my house, left Los Angeles, and I have now set up shop in Austin, Texas. And I am not alone in that. There's a lot of my brethren from California coming out here because I see California plates everywhere. And I decided to move out here because for many reasons, but I felt that for me, my business is not determined on being in Los Angeles. Everyone I talk to is on Skype. It's on Zoom. I see you only at events and or festivals or AFM or those places because you live in BFE. I'm not driving over to Manhattan Beach. That's insanity. From the Valley. That's just like, it's essentially me driving. I should just drive to San Francisco at that point. It's about the same amount of time. So
I have so many responses to that. None of them are appropriate. Keep going.
So I decided, I was like, you know what, where is my company going to be able to grow faster? Where am I going to be able to get more bang for my buck? Where am I going to be able to upgrade my lifestyle for my family? And Austin was the place I chose. We looked at a few different cities and fell in love with Austin. And the quirkiness and the weirdness of Austin is very, very interesting place. I love it. And me finding it out here, we bought a house. We're building everything up. New corporate headquarters are being built out here for Indie Film Hustle and Bulletproof Screenwriting, Next Level Soul. Everything that I'm doing is going to be based out of Austin. So my corporate headquarters will be here, and we're going to be moving on from there. So I'm really happy. As of this recording, I have not moved into my house yet. When you see a new background that I'm going to be building, I'm building new sets. There'll be different sets for Indie Film Hustle and for Next Level Soul. So there'll be different sets and different everything in the background for that. New studio for educational products that I'll be creating and YouTube videos and things like that. So I'm able to grow here a little bit faster than I can in LA. And you know this as well as I do. Taxes are a bitch.
I feel like you've left at the most stable time in LA's history. I mean, politically, everything is fantastic. COVID is completely under control. Taxes, everything is.
There's no fires.
I can't understand why you would go at this particular time. It seems strange to me.
Well,
so what we could expect, what you're telling us is, we probably can expect a new background and maybe 2 chairs.
No chairs. Actually, there'll be a full Yoda. Yoda will probably be back. Yoda's in a container right now, using the Force to keep out anybody. But no, I have big plans for what I want to do with Indie Film Hustle, with Bulletproof Screenwriting, Next Level Soul, and all my other companies that I run underneath these brands. And I think I'll be able to do it here faster and bigger than I can there. Like, you can't buy. It's very difficult to buy a studio. And buy studio, buy land in LA. It's just too expensive. I'm not rolling like you just yet, so so I can't. I mean, I don't have crazy Stage 32 money, so he's quiet now, guys. No, but seriously, so I just felt that it was the best move for my company, best move for my family as well, and just an upgrade in lifestyle and cost of living and everything like that. I mean, it's just a lot cheaper to live here. It's still expensive in a lot of people's eyes, but coming from LA, it's extremely affordable here. And there's a thriving film community. You know, Rick's out here. Rick Linkletter's out here. I've had the pleasure of hanging out with him a little bit. And Robert's out here, Mr. Rodriguez, which is my goal to get Robert. I've said it. I'm putting it out into the universe. Robert will be on the show. I'm not sure at the end of this year, but by next year for sure, I'm going to get Robert on the show. He's one of my number one. He's actually the number one guest I want to get on the show. Out of everybody on the planet I want to talk to, it's Robert, because Robert, for me, as a Latino filmmaker, is the guy who kind of opened the doors and inspired. I mean, gosh, he's still inspiring people to this day. I mean, we still talk about El Mariachi, for God's sakes, as the myth that it is. It's almost he's almost a mythical being in the indie film space, you know. So there's a thriving film community here. I mean, it's not LA. I'm not making any illusions of that, but there is a tremendous amount of tech coming here, which is another reason. Okay. There's a ton of tech coming out here, and where my company is going, I want to start. We're going to be working into that world as well, as far as, you know, building things in the tech space as well. And also there was another little known podcast that moved out here, Mr. Joe Rogan, and a lot of podcasters are flying out here as well because of that. And by the way, Joe saved $17 million by moving out here from that $100 million deal that he got from Spotify. He's like, you know what? I don't like LA $17 million worth. I'm just going to move out to Austin and set up shop.
You can't blame him. It's a great city. I mean, I love Austin. I spent a lot of time down there, and it is a thriving scene, and it's everything that you kind of want out of a small city. Like, it's got everything. It's got that vibe. It's got the personality. It's got the artistry. It's got that independent feel to it, which is really, really cool. So, you know, I have no doubt that will you will thrive there. I still think you need your veto, for sure. Well, can you tease anything that you are going to be working on? Can you give your audience, your fan base, the people that have suffered through you telling them they're irrelevant, can you give them?
Jesus Christ! You're never gonna let that go. You're never. No,
I will not.
You'll never ever let that go.
At least the next 5 to 10 years, that's for sure.
Jesus Christ! I can't believe it. I have the editing power. I'm gonna edit that whole bit out. No one will ever hear it.
No, you're not. I will make sure that I recreate it, playing both roles.
Exactly. That I would like to see. No. So, no. As far as teasing is concerned, I am actively rebuilding Indie Film Hustle from scratch. So there's going to be a brand new website.
Wow, good for you.
A brand new website's going to be coming out, which is not an easy feat, but that's something that I'm currently actively working on. And there'll be a revamping of about a bunch of that stuff. There's going to be new courses that I'll be creating myself. There's going to be a lot more video content. There's going to be a lot more stuff that I'll be able to do here that I wasn't able to do there in the way that I want to do it. So, I obviously could have rebuilt the site there, but it's just different. It's kind of like a fresh change. Everything has to be changed over. So over the next 3 or 4 months, it's going to be a lot of transitions, a lot of things happening at Indie Film Hustle that will be changing and for the better, hopefully, and providing more value to my audience and to the community and to the tribe. So that's what I hope I can provide them from my new base in Austin, Texas.
That's pretty freaking awesome, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
Pretty awesome. What haven't we touched on? What haven't we touched upon on this illustrious journey of grind and hustle and indie film? What haven't we touched on?
The only thing
anything else you want to share?
The only thing I can think of is that a lot of people, specifically podcasters, even you, ask, how are you doing this? Like 500 episodes? Jesus Christ. There isn't
501, which is still completely bizarre and odd to me that we're celebrating you on the 501st podcast. But by all means, get on with your bed.
Well, my 500th episode was pretty cool. We had Neil Blomkamp on it, the director of District 9. So I wanted to kind of give him a highlighted episode because he's an inspirational figure. Now, after talking to you,
plus his art's still relevant to a few people.
Just a couple, not many though. I mean, soon it's going to be gone.
It's going to be gone. It's
all day.
It's like a deteriorating.
No, I can see this. I can see this
option. It's like a deteriorating option in the stock market.
I can see this at panels and events for years to come.
Yeah, you just better hope that COVID rages again, so you don't have to sit together on a panel.
Jesus Christ. I have given you some ammo that you will use now for the rest. Like, we'll be on the set shooting for the mob, and you're like, why are we even doing this? I mean, in 50
why
years.
are we even doing it?
Like, no one.
You're like, can I get another take? And I'll be like, fuck, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, Alex. Really, in the grand scheme of things. Do you really need another fucking take? It doesn't matter. Does anybody care?
Oh, my God. Anyway, what was I saying? I forgot what I was saying. I've completely
asking. Because we ask, how are you doing it all? And you're saying you were talking about how you've been.
The thing is that, and I know you'll agree with this, is the consistency. And so many other podcasts and so many other blogs and websites and people in this space that you and I both know, that consistency is tough to keep going. This is not an easy thing to do. To consistently put out content, being of value, day in, day out, week in, week out. It's not easy to do. I do it at a high level as far as output is concerned. Honestly, I wish I could go back to one. I did an episode a week of Indie Film Hustle for 8 or 9 months, but then I got so backed up by all these interviews that I was recording. I was like, these poor guys are waiting 6 months to get out. Because I want to talk to people. I like talking to people. I like, having guests on. So it's just continuously doing it, one page at a time, every day. Do one little thing every day that keeps you moving forward. And then you turn around and you're like, shit, I got 501 episodes today. And it's insane. Like I was like, as we were getting closer to it, I was like, well, shit, this is pretty insane, And like I look at Bulletproof Screenwriting, and that's at 140 or something like that now. And that's like, I just started that like a year or two ago. Like, how is that a thing? Like, how it's insane that it just keeps going and keeps going like that. But it's that consistency and what you've done with Stage 32. I think you were. It's like 4 years old when we met. I think.
Yeah, probably about that. Yeah.
Yeah, about that.
We're going into our 10th year, which is insane.
Right. So yeah, it's about 4 years because I just got through my 6th anniversary. So doing that for a decade is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So everyone listening, you have to understand that it is going to be a lot of work, but you got to enjoy the journey and get to, do what you can while you're here and make yourself happy while you're here and be of service to other people while you're here. And that could be through your art and could not be through your art. But regardless, and I'm going to go right back around to this, regardless in 500 years and nobody's going to know who you are, the people who were here and you affected their lives will know. And that's the goal of what we do. It's not to affect 500 years ago from now. It's to affect the people that are here now, enjoying your movies, enjoying your art. That's all that really matters is today and now. Whatever happens, history will take care of it. But right now, you can control what happens in your world here.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a total stick save, but it was close. You got a piece of the puck. You got a piece of the puck.
I try to bring it back. I a little, but it's true.
I saw what you tried to do there. Yeah, the East German judge gives it a 6.3.
That's so crazy. Oh my God!
But you said what you said is absolutely true, and I hope that hopefully today we gave people a lot of laughs and an insight into the man who has brought all this value to you and everything that he has done. But I also hope that you kind of took away the what you said there at the end. I think is probably one of the most important things, and there were a lot of them over the last 2.5 hours almost. The idea that for a lot of people it's a struggle right now, between COVID and between everything going on. mental health is a big thing. Mental health, begins with you taking care of yourself. And, and it doesn't matter if you see other people doing it every day. And, it matters what you can do, when you can do it, and how you can do it. And that begins really with surrounding yourself with really great people. And that's something I know you do very, very well, Alex. You surround yourself with great people, and that, clearly inspires you and keeps you going and gives you, that sort of wind at your back. And I think for a lot of people right now, understand that it is a long game. You said, I did a podcast and one day I woke up and I had 500 of them. Well, that's it. You didn't do 500 in a day. And you're not going to write a screenplay in a day, and you're not going to land 20 acting gigs in a day, and you're not going to, it doesn't happen like that. It's a body of work over a lifetime of effort. And the whole idea is that, you get up and you take a little step every single day for yourself, not for anyone else, not because people on Twitter are telling you that you're an asshole if you don't do it or anything like that. It's because you're doing it for yourself, and that all begins with taking care of your own mental health and your own, and surrounding yourself with nothing but positive people and cutting out the negative people. And I think that, I'd be curious to ask you this, because you said, earlier that for a lot of your life, a lot of the things you were doing didn't make you happy. Would you attribute the fact that one of the reasons why you're so happy doing this is the fact that you are surrounded by positive-minded people and creative people and people that are out there doing it and sharing the struggle with you and sharing the real with you, and that is, that humanity gives you sort of, that feeling of happiness?
I think the thing that gives me the feeling of happiness is being of service to other people.
Yeah.
And doing everything you said, talking to people and doing the work that I do. I think that being of service really helps, because the first 39 years of my life, it was a struggle because I was trying to reach a dream. Not that it was unobtainable, but the way I was trying to achieve it was not the right way. I did all the mistakes that we've talked about. I've been the needy guy. I've hit up the wrong people. I've had my ego out of control. I thought I was the next this, or I tried to emulate that. And then I would go back into my post suite in my company, and then I would have a 21-year-old director who just got $3 million to make an independent film, and who's never seen Blade Runner. When I'm telling them, like, hey, do you want me to color this to look like a little bit like Blade Runner? And they're like, what's Blade Runner? And I'm like, I want to smack you. And that kind of anger of like, why them, not me? Why did they get the chance, not me? I have more than enough skills. I have more than enough talent. Why the hell am I not getting a shot? Because this guy, this gal got a shot, and they obviously don't know what they're doing, because I'm literally looking at the film and I'm working on it and I'm fixing their mistakes and I'm doing all that stuff. So there was so much bitter and anger that I had for most of my career. I was very angry and bitter. And the moment that I got a kind of a cleansing in the olive oil and vinegar fires, that really woke me up a lot, because I was like, oh, what I've been doing it's real work, but it's not this kind of work. And This is brutal physical labor, and I needed that beating. The universe said, no, you really don't understand what you've got. Let me beat you down, and I'm also going to make it to the point that it was your idea. Like, you chose this path. No one forced this on top of me. Like, no one forced me to do a manual labor job. It was my idea. It was self-inflicted, and to go down that road. So, and then when I left that's when I came back almost cleansed and said, let me open up this online business, which is as far away from manual labor as you can get, is online, where it becomes passive. And there's a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but it's not that kind of work. And then I discovered my happiness along the way. First, it was the happiness of creating content and creating the business, and that aspect, I always got my juices flowing. But it was more about, I'm like, wait a minute, I really am enjoying people, helping people. Like, when you hear this, I'm sure when people walk up to you at an event and like, man, that one episode or the one thing that you put out really changed my life, or helped me, or saved me millions, or things like that. That's very powerful stuff. It's
value. They're bringing value to you. That's value. That kind of feedback and that kind of comment, that's value. People don't realize that. That's value.
And it's addictive. It is addictive. Yeah. It's real. It's like that kind of juice that you kind of get stuck on. It's a drug. And there's a reason why that there has been scientific research that you get an endorphin rush more from giving than taking. They could give you $100 or you can give you $100 to give to someone else. You'll feel better giving the $100 to somebody else. It's a weird thing, but it's something that because we as a species are built to give, to cooperate. That's how we've been able to do what we do. And we actually have an endorphin wired. Our brains are wired to enjoy giving of ourselves. And it's so amazing. So I do it in this way because I get to mix my passion, my love with being able to give. And I'm also benefiting from it because when I have a conversation with these guests that I am able to talk to, they're answering my questions. So I get to ask, Oliver Stone whatever the hell I want for an hour. There's a lot of people in the world that would love that opportunity, and I don't take it for granted. You know what I mean? So, at the same point, I'm also helping other people along their journey, and also providing value to Oliver or whoever else the guest is to promote their book or to promote this or promote their film or something like that. But at the end of the day, it always is about being of service, and I think that's what's made my mental health better. Because people knew me before Indie Film Hustle, especially like my wife who saw me through she's been with me for years. She's seen me change. She's like, you seem so happy now. I've never seen you this happy. I'm like, yeah, I know. I realized that. And I'm like, I think I found what I want to do. And then when I was able to do it full time, which happened about 3.5 years ago, then it all changed. And I was like, oh my God, I get to wake up every morning and do what I love to do. That is a feeling that I know and not many people in this world get that. And that's what our goal is, to try to help people get to that place where they are able to do what they love to do and get money and get paid to do it so they can survive as an artist.
Right. Well, I got to say, man, I think that would probably be a good place to leave this because we went from, people on the balcony to giving, loving, and endorphins and all that. So I feel like that is where we want to leave people. But yes. I just want to say, man, first of all, I'm honored that you asked me to do this, to be a guest host for you and to celebrate everything that you've accomplished and everything you've done with this amazing podcast and with the brand itself. 500 episodes, 501 now is remarkable. And then when you add in all the rest of it, it's, another 140 and then the new one you have, and then all the education, all the other videos and all the other stuff that you do. It's an amazing amount of content and incredibly valuable. The amount of value you bring to people is just off the charts. And for me, it's been an absolute pleasure to be with you all these times. Yes. And to call you my friend and to have done, a million panels with you and have a million laughs with you, mostly at your expense, which I really enjoy. But yeah, I'm just thrilled for you, and you deserve every accolade. And I do hope that if you are listening to this right now, I do hope that you will let Alex know very, very simply that, you bring value to you. That matters. That's how you can bring value to other people. You hear people say a lot often, like, how do I bring value to somebody where I feel like they've accomplished so much more than me? And the answer to that question is you recognize the fact that they're human beings just like you. They have emotions just like you. They get up in the morning like you. They go to bed like you, and they have struggles in between just like you. And they may be having a bad day too and may not want to go out there and create and do that thing and everything like that. If you bring them value, you're going to lift them up. And that's how you bring them value. So I hope you will do that for Alex. And I'm looking forward to 500 more shows. And if I've been on 13 times, I expect to be on 14 in the next 500 at least.
Man, I appreciate you coming on, man. I don't think there was anybody else I could have gotten to do this show, this episode specifically, because you've been there at the beginning with me and kind of seen what I've gone through and seen the company grow, seen the show grow, and I'm proud to call you my friend as well, and all the good times we have. I can't wait for you to fly down to Austin when hopefully it will be the Austin Film Festival. If not, hopefully it'll be South by, so you can show me around. As far as I haven't been to either of those festivals, so you can show me what it's all like. And I told you this, when you do move here, and you will eventually. I told you I would take a shot. So
wow, that's incentive enough.
So when you eventually decide to stop paying those ridiculous taxes, you'll come out here, and when you do, I will take a shot. It will be tequila, Not tequila. No, it won't be tequila. Excuse me, rum. It will be rum, preferably Cuban rum, if we can get that. That's the only alcohol I've ever drank, and it's usually because I have a sore throat. But that's an old Cuban thing. You like take a little bit of rum, a little lemon, a little honey, and you're done. But rum would be the only thing I would drink. But you need to be moved here, not hanging out, not just at the festival. I have
all the stipulations.
I have moved here and set up shop here. So if you ever do that, I've publicly said it. I will take a shot with you, even though I don't drink.
Wow, that is a wild incentive. That goes into the column of reasons to move.
And I think at that point we should star wipe out of this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Star wipe the hell out.
And I've said this before as well, man. Thank you for being in my movie. You brought so much wonderful energy and ego and desire. I still remember when you came over and watched it with Amanda and how you guys pissed yourselves watching it. And when we saw it at the Chinese theater, it was just a great time. And so I appreciate you trusting me with the insanity that movie was.
Oh, it was so much fun. It was so much fun. I want to do it again. We got to get this other one off the ground.
So the sequel will be. So this is the thing. So we're gonna do three. We're gonna do a 3-parter. It's gonna be like Rick's Before Sunset, Before Sunrise, and Before Midnight. We're gonna do every 5 or 10 years. We're gonna go back with these characters, and we're gonna be at a different film festival. So we did one with Sundance, and they're gonna meet up again at South by, and then the last one will be at Cannes. So that will be over the course of 10 years and see what happens. So that's.
And then we should just do a spinoff of just my character where I recollect my entire producing career and everybody tells me how irrelevant it is.
Obviously.
It's obsolete.
It's obsolete, except for the people here in present time, sir. Man, it has been thank you so much for doing this, brother. I appreciate it. And thank you for all the work that you do with Stage 32 and all the help in the service you provide to the community as well. And I wish there was more guys like you and me out there bringing good quality value to people and creatives out there. And I hope everyone listening follow that bliss, take it one day at a time. And here's to another 500 or 10,000. Who knows at the point to rate that I do these things.
Yeah, and listen, again, the value comes in, follow Alex on Instagram. Throw your shit. You never throw your shit.
Because everyone knows it already. But, Indie Film Hustle, at Indie Film Hustle is where everything is on all the social medias except for Instagram, which is iFilm Hustle, and then all the other. You guys all know my stuff. I don't have to tell you all my stuff. But Indie Film Hustle, Bulletproof Screenwriting.
It's good for you to fill it out. I'm going to fill mine out.
IndieFilmHustle.com, BulletproofScreenwriting.tv, Filmtrepreneur.com, IndieFilmHustleTV.tv, and IFHAcademy.com for education. And there's a bunch of other stuff as well. But
I'll make mine really simple, man. I'll leave out my OnlyFans one because I don't want to complicate matters. Stage 32. Stage32.com. Create a profile. Get on there. It's free. Join the community. And Instagram and Twitter, just RB. My initials, walks into a bar. RB walks into a bar. And that's how you bring value. Follow the people. Like their shit. Tell them you're doing a good day, that you've gotten value out of it. I just think that's wildly important.
And is that the website, the other website besides OnlyFans, Cameo? Is that the one that you can?
I don't know that one. How do I get on that? What's going on?
Isn't Cameo the one where you can get celebrities to give you happy birthday shout outs?
Oh yeah.
Why aren't you on that? I mean,
they keep wooing me, but I'm holding out for Betty White money.
or Rudy Giuliani money. Either one.
No, listen, man. I want that Betty White coin. Come on.
How much is she charging?
I have no idea. But if I had to guess, knowing her, she's probably getting paid in crypto. She probably, yeah.
She is probably played in crypto. But my friend, thank you again so much for doing this, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Love you lots, man.
And I guess just I hosted, I get to sign it out, right? So you have been listening to the 501st episode of Indie Film Hustle with my special guest, Alex Ferrari, the Alex Ferrari. I'm Rich Botto, RB to you, and we'll see you down the road.
I'm sure.
Listen to 502.
I'm sure you'll be back on, sir. No doubt about it. I don't think I could get rid of you, sir.
You cannot get rid of me.